Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street LCX video here from the LCX exchange. This is a very interesting project that I've kept an eye on for some time now. We do quite a few videos on this one. Since the last update a couple of weeks ago, we've had the announcement and the launch, if you like, of the public sale of the LEOX token. We'll go into a bit more detail about that. Before we do so, just want to remind everyone of all the other videos on the channel. Don't forget to go check those out after this one, and make sure, if you haven't done so already, smash that subscribe button to the channel and make sure you get alerted of all the videos we have coming away as and when they get released. So guys, let's go straight into this topic for LCX. Very interesting actually. So the LEOX token, this is in relation to the Galileo Protocol. Now probably if you haven't seen this yet or wondered what it is, it's very much a marketplace, if you like, or indeed a platform and protocol for people to be buying digital and as well as that physical assets via an NFT aspect. So one thing I've mentioned many times, NFTs aren't just artworks. They will have an application towards things like real estate, cars, products in general, devices in general, pretty much anything and everything, right, that has a value of some sort. And there are a few other projects like this out there already. If you haven't seen one yet, go and check out BOSON Protocol, BOSON on the exchange, and BOSON is the name of the company as well. These guys have been doing this kind of thing for some time. But the reason I'm very interested in this particular one, not only because it's through the LCX token, but it's actually also one of the first tokens I've seen properly using the QRC-721 protocol. This is through Quant's mechanism, which is very interesting indeed, and certainly something to be capitalized upon as time goes by. So it says here in a bit of an introduction, the company's flagship application is known as the Galileo Protocol and allows the creation of PNFTs, so physical NFTs, very interesting, to encrypt, store, and transfer data securely. So we just mentioned here that the PNFTs, QRC-721 tokens, are non-fungible tokens representing physical authenticated assets issued on multiple blockchains thanks to the interoperability solution offered by Quant network. So very interesting indeed. It means that also a multitude of different projects and chains can be used within this as well. But I do love the fact that this is integrating with some of the projects we hold as tokens, but also have a fascination and a very big interest in general throughout this space. So there's a few mentions here of the kind of things that you could do from here. And you know what? I'm going to be honest. I was sat here and I was like, well, how is this different to BOSON? How is this different to NFTs in general? Like, is this even a thing? Like, we see so many projects out, right, over a multitude of months and years now, where they come out and they kind of copy everyone else. And I thought, well, I kind of get the concept, but I don't understand, what's the exact mechanism here that can give value to someone or have a bit of a USP to it, unique selling point. So I was going through the white paper here of the Galileo Protocol, and it's quite interesting. The usual stuff that you can kind of anticipate and agree upon, to be honest. Some things that pulled out for me is, okay, what's the utility, but also what's the solution to the world? And one of the things, like, we cover projects like Veracity, for example, that kind of have a solution really to try and reduce ad fraud and things like this and save companies loads of money. It's also a similar principle in here. And I was reading through this. It's very interesting information. I don't think it's fully sourced. It doesn't tell you where exactly the information is sourced from. But they do mention about the amount of money that is spent, not just buying NFTs and selling NFTs and general items within digitalization and certainly through blockchain. But they're talking about counterfeiting, how much this is valued to businesses. And this is quite interesting. So the authenticity and ownership of this underlying assets in a world where the counterfeiting business is valued at more than $500 billion. So there we have it. There's our little market number that I wanted to see and hear. Okay, so this gives me a defined initiative in my mind to think, okay, this has a bit of a purpose here. This is the solution that they're trying to deliver to and try and fix, right? So it's very interesting. Of course, jewelry counterfeiting is a big thing, of course, things like watches, etc., pieces of diamonds and all of these kind of things. And then, of course, like counterfeiting or money laundering in relation to things like real estate and other produce and products and things that we consider like material items can be counterfeited quite easily still in this day and age, even money itself, right? So that's quite an interesting thing that stood out for me. And we'll get back to the topic of LCX in a second, but it obviously relates because this token of LEOX is available via the LCX exchange. So this is very interesting. And also some other bits of information I found quite interesting was this. So a Rolex watch is a bit of a weird one, really, because I've got to get my head around about the actual ownership of this, right? And some people, like consortiums or hedge funds, or maybe even just a group of people, want to buy something, perhaps not even physically own it, but at least know that it's locked up safe somewhere for the future. And this example, Mr. Smith, great English example name there, for instance, spends 20,000 on a Rolex watch. He may then sell 50% of this watch's value on the Galileo market for 10,000. Now, this is quite interesting because you have a concept in your head. Well, hang on a minute. I want to own physically 50% of this, and that's kind of like not really possible, right? You can't split a watch in half unless it's a crazy like puzzle watch or something that actually connects together for whatever reason. I've never seen one. I don't think they exist, but this principle is quite interesting because you could essentially save yourself some money in the sense that you can distribute the value of this product in this way. You would have digital ownership via blockchain verification and process, etc., to have that actual fully verified ownership, whether it's partial or fully, right? And then in the future, as the valuations come in based on blockchain algorithm and demand, supply, etc., a valuation is done fairly and more transparently, but also everyone will be involved in this sale. So if that person then goes on to sell it, and based maybe on the governance, particularly utilizing the tokenization of LEOX to decide whether we do want to sell this or not as a grand owner or a partial owner of this product, that could be done as well. So it's quite interesting. I still can't really fully get my head around how someone would want to try and do this, and I guess the trust mechanism is where another part of the solution is to come in to be more trustworthy with this kind of thing and utilization of this kind of thing. But in my head still, I'm sort of thinking, well, if I'm about to buy half of a Rolex watch, one, would I want to wear it myself anyway, or do we get like half ownership of it that I can wear it whenever I want or book it out? Who knows? It's a bit like boat syndicates, right? You only have the boat a few weeks a year, but you pay a substantial amount of money per annual aspect to be a partial owner of this boat, right, or partial user of this boat. So it's something I need to get my head around a bit more about this, but I can see the concept and the idea for sure. And I do think it's got a big place in the near future, particularly with real estate. And I mean things like maybe luxury apartments or villas, where perhaps you've got a consortium of people that maybe want to buy a villa, whether you're in Ibiza or Miami, wherever it might be, and have that verified proper processing done via blockchain. Whereas right now, of course, you've got extra costs on top of that, like management fees, broker fees, syndicate fees, all these kind of things that could be removed, right? So some really good advantages here for money saving, but also full verification. I guess kind of like replacing the existing kind of paper certificates or authenticity certificates that you'd get when you buy a premium item or a big item like this. In particular, Rolexes, I know you get like certificates, right, of authenticity and the number or the limited number of what number that actual watch is. So there's some really interesting things towards this. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I've bought some LEOX tokens via the LCX exchange. Let's just go into a bit more detail about that. So this is this page here. If you haven't got an LCX exchange account yet, you can obviously create one quite nice and easily. But you can also buy the LEOX token via a number of different ways, different tokens. Particularly for me, via USDC was the most appropriate version, as I don't really have any Bitcoin anyway. But you can see here the public price sale of 25 cents right now, with a vesting day of 7 days. And obviously there's a big round cap here of 21 million LEOX tokens so far. So there's 38 days left of this public sale. I thought this was a good opportunity because I think there's two ways I can look about this. One, if I wanted to actually utilize this token and use the marketplace to do something like this as an example for the channel, or something that I actually look through the marketplace and go, oh, that's actually quite cool, I want some of that, then I will do that. And I'll show you guys how that works as and when it happens. But also, the other great thing about these public sales and then eventually the private sales and then beyond that, it might be a while till this actually goes listing on full exchanges as a proper sale price. But typically you can make quite a bit of money on launch dates of this. So as and when that happens, or as we get nearer those times, I will keep you guys informed, and we'll track that as it gets nearer. because there are good opportunities if you play it right and the timing's right and you're aware of things before they happen in advance. There is good opportunity to get some quick gains here in within a day or 2 days sometimes as well, depending on if there's a big sell-off, people buy in, and there's usually sometimes a second wave before the market then condenses a bit with that particular token. You get a bit more of a maturity before the upsell of a bull market in the future, right? So it's kind of why I'm adding this into the video, really. I think it's very interesting. I was, as I said, particularly interested in the fact that it's utilizing tokens or projects and technologies that we know about on the channel. I know we do videos for you guys for as well, and I'm sure you hold most of these also. It builds a bit more of a story about the ecosystem, right? And I'm very interested to see the development of this. I think the NFT craze has died down significantly, but now I think that's out of the way. I think more people would be interested in what's the actual application here now? How do we then now go on to the actual utilization of the NFT aspect? And I don't particularly like to call them NFTs as such. I think it's just the digitalization of products and services moving forward. NFTs have perhaps scared a lot of people off with that terminology based on what's happened. People bought loads of NFT artworks and they crashed and people didn't know what they were doing or what they were buying. It's pretty crazy, right? And it was fully, relatively unregulated still. So obviously LCX being a regulated exchange, this helps a lot define a bit more of a seriousness to this moving forward, and a proper application, a proper utilization of blockchain technology utilized via NFTs and digital ownership and physical ownership being integrated together. So I think that's quite interesting. Let us know what you think about that in the comments below. I'm certainly keeping my eye on this. I'm probably going to build a few more token allocations for LEOX token. Let us know if you've been buying any as well, or if you want any more information or a bit more of a deep dive into Galileo. I will leave the link of this PDF white paper in the description, but of course also feel free to ask us if you want us to do an extra video on this as well. Some really interesting things developing with these guys, certainly into 2023. So I think this is going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. So before we go into the actual TradeView chart, I just want to show you this on CoinMarketCap. The reason being is because a lot of the data for LCX on TradeView, for example, the application I use for the charts, only shows it really from around sort of November 2021. The LCX token goes all the way back here to 2019. It was actually under a different name, I believe, before. But why I wanted to show you this, there's a particular reason why I want to show you that, because right now we're at this 3.5 cent mark, right? The lower regions that we've seen before are back down at these 1 cent areas, and even at here 0.001. So I'm going to keep that in mind as we switch over to the chart, because this really identifies some really key points that we can see in lower positions for buying, right? So as you can see on the chart here, I've already dragged this down to the 0.005 mark as an example, just to give us a bit of an indication of where we could be coming down to in the lower regions. Okay, so as I said, 3.5 cents is roughly the mark we're at now. It kind of plays right now into this kind of area that we see on the fib retracement level. This is where I've got one of the buy orders. It's slowly but surely coming to those areas, albeit maybe a week or two off still. But I do have the lower regions that come in play around the lower regions of 2 cents as an example. So I've actually got one around, I think, 2.6 cents and also one at 2.1 cents as well. So just to see if we can grab more LCX of those lower positions. I'm still buying manually LCX, by the way, as I just mentioned here on BitTrue, at these current levels. Not huge amounts, because I still have the anticipation based on macro events and based on the fact that the market's still in a downward trend, right? You can see here, I don't think we're fully over. I think if you think back to that screen that I showed you just a minute ago with CoinMarketCap, there's some really interesting areas of support and resistance that we need to really define and tick off. And that in particular is actually sub 2 cents as well. But we'll come to that as and when, if and when that happens as well. But for me right now, it's these current position areas. If we're talking about that particular area, matching up with, for example, what we've seen in July 2021 and potentially January 2021 respectively, these are quite nice areas to look at through that period of time, which do actually drag us down to these kind of areas here, around 1.5, or 1.7 cents. So there's an argument to say that I could put some limit orders down there, but I think we're a bit far off to suggest that that's going to definitely happen just yet. I want to see these points come in first, and then I'll reassess my positions at lower regions as well, as and when that kind of data comes to fruition. But you see here on the right hand side, 8% still down on the year. There's lots of growth to come to break us even back to zero, let alone going into a green momentum, into a very good bull cycle, into green and into a positive outcome, right? So currently right now the RSIs are showing 33 on the 14-day and 39 on the 28-day. This is why I'm buying manually at these current positions. As you can see, the bit of a spike down on the RSI charts down here at the bottom, suggesting that this is making a downward move and the prices are still coming into this fluctuation downwards, right? So if we see that 28-day coming to around sort of 37, 35, that's where I could see it coming down to those lower regions of 3 cents, and that would be where I really do buy for a big chunk of LCX tokens. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But you can see the volumes aren't huge in LCX anyway. It's when the big announcements come out or staking opportunities come out for new tokens, this tends to have a nice spike upwards, and then it's retaliated as you would expect with profit taking, but then the continuation of the trend line keeps dropping down. And actually you can kind of roughly see part of the Elliott wave here. Okay, this kind of indicates on the downward trend aspect the levels that they come down in, almost a stepping stone approach. You can see one here with an upward bit slight trend, but you can see a stepping stone here and then another stepping stone here. So this could be one of the last few waves, if you like, within maybe the fourth or third wave of LCX coming down. So this could be very interesting. In fact, what I'm going to start doing from these videos onwards is showing those Elliott wave aspects, because this does give you a big definition of where we are in the history and the cycle of LCX and other assets as well, and particularly on for downward trends too, which does give another indication as to why these are in acceptable places to be putting potential buy orders at lower areas. So there's loads of really cool data you can pull from this. But this is kind of what I'm doing with LCX right now. I'm very interested to see its development over the next couple of weeks and if these price points come in. As I said earlier, do let us know in the comments below if you're holding LCX or you're trying to buy this LEOX token for the Galileo Protocol. I think this is really interesting to see those developments also. Let us know what you're doing. It's going to wrap that video up nicely, I think. We'll keep an eye on those updates and developments as they come. And certainly as we enter sort of the end aspects of the LEOX token public sale and what's to come after that. And we'll always let you know as well when that might be coming on to sale into the market as well, to try and take some profits from the launch that may happen. I'm not sure exactly when, but we'll definitely cover that. But guys, I'm going to wrap that up there. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next LCX update video. Some really interesting things developing with these guys and their ecosystem as well. Take care and bye-bye.